All right, welcome to Beavercreek Rotary. I'm your president and host, Stephen Brown. It is good to be back. I actually really enjoyed last week's meeting on Zoom in Florida. So I was making some sweet potato hash. I don't know if you guys could see that, but yeah, it was a great meeting. It was nice being in Florida though. I'd like to thank our greeters, Mike Canada and Alex Zahara, Eric Markix for being our ticket master, Mike Zwick, Pete Bells, and Mark Weinstein for our great programs. Right now, I'd like to invite Denny up to do the invocation.
Would you please join me in prayer? Holy Creator of the universe, we stay focused on the objectives, what we have for the world: peace, tranquility, a true brotherhood of man, freedom from hunger, from oppression, from sickness, the freedom to choose our own destinations. We reaffirm our commitment to our simple Rotary four-way test. For all we do and support, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? We reaffirm our commitment to these high ethics in all that we do, and we give you thanks for the blessings and the opportunity and responsibilities that befall us as Rotarians. We continue in this new millennium with optimism, renewed energy. Amen.
Thank you very much. You always do a great job. I really appreciate it. Secretary's report, David Cusack.
We'd like to welcome visiting Rotarian from Dayton, Adam Horstman.
Adam, welcome back.
And then Paul Watton has a cadre of guests. Yes, today I have Jeff Mann, our Director of Student Services.
Hello, Jeff.
Greg Thompson, our Business Manager.
Greg.
Annika Bushman, our Public Relations. And Darren Schwedeman, our HR Director.
All right, welcome.
We're all here to hear Chris, so we're excited to hear Chris.
Pressure.
As far as Rotarian attendance, we are 52%.
All right. Thank you very much. Sergeant at Arms, Brian Lampton. Wow, that was very good. Thank you very little. Man.
Alrighty. Well, I'm sure my report will be worth that applause. Since there were 2 claps, that's probably about what it's worth. Of course, our weather today, yucky. Saturday, rain, snow, hail, sun. Yeah, it's Ohio. Although Sunday's supposed to be nice, sunny and high of 42. The Crayola factory will be filling a free crayon box with your favorite colors on their 64th birthday to salute their iconic 64 count box. You can register online and pick up the free crayons wherever that is between March 31st and May 31st. So if you want some free crayons, Google Crayola factory and see if you can get involved there. This was an interesting story. Her name is Carolina Lecker. She's a Playboy model that's become what she calls a love detective. So she's hired by women who think their partners are cheating. She obtains their numbers and their Instagram account and begins to flirt with these men to arrange a date. If the man agrees to the date, she wins the bet and collects her fee and reports to the women her findings. So gentlemen, a couple of things. First of all, if you don't have an Instagram account, you should be all right. Second of all, so some super hot woman comes on to you. Duh, right? New hotness, old and busted, right? That line from Men in Black. Okay, this was a good story. For you nap takers out there, a study's concluded the optimum length of time for that perfect nap. Anybody want to take a stab at what that optimum length of time?
20 minutes.
See, that's what I thought. Half hour is about all I can nap.
49
It's
minutes.
90
and 30
minutes.
seconds.
It's 90 minutes is the perfect time because that lets you complete a sleep cycle. Yeah. So those of you taking shorter naps, now you have an excuse to take a longer one. Some information on the NCAA tournament, men's basketball tournament. Number 4 Arkansas did beat Gonzaga. Texas Tech beat God's team, Notre Dame. Of course, we know Villanova beat Ohio State and that team up north. Number 10 Miami upset number 2 Auburn. I was hoping Rick was here to hear that.
He's online.
Okay, there you go, Rick. This one's probably busting everybody's bracket. Number 15 St.
Thanks, Brian. I heard it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Rick. Glad you were here to hear that. So number 15 St. Peter's beat number 7 Murray State, so they're still in it. Number 3 Purdue is actually still in it. I also saw on ESPN that the NFL is once again considering changing their overtime rules. I hope they do. Let's see, on this day, in 1967, Martin Luther King leads a march against the Vietnam War. And in 1950, I can't even read my own writing. Looks like 58, Sugar Ray Robinson wins the middleweight title. In 1774, the British Parliament passes the Boston Port Act. It was a fine to the residents of Boston to pay nearly $1 million, and that's in today's dollars, for the tea that they dumped into the harbor. So yes, the British government attempted, I'm assuming, to fine those residents. Let's see, some birthdays of note. Today, in 1911, Jack Ruby. Remember that name? In history, he was the assassin who killed Lee Harvey also. In 1922, Eileen Ford, one of the co-founders of the Ford Modeling Agency. She was a birthday. In 1934, Gloria Steinem, a publisher, actually originally from Toledo, Ohio. In 1942, the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, very good, from Memphis, Tennessee. In 1947, Sir Elton John celebrates a birthday. 1965, Sarah Jessica Parker, an actress born in Nelsonville, Ohio. Didn't know that. And in 1982, Danica Patrick, IndyCar driver, has a birthday today. Let's see. There's some interesting little factoids here. Let's see. Wild camels roam Arizona through 1890. In 1855, Congress spent $30,000 to import 75 camels for military use. Yeah, that didn't work, so they just auctioned them off. California, the state of California registers 10,000 earthquakes per year. And this one's kind of funny. Chickens outnumber residents in the state of Delaware 200 to 1. 200 to 1. So, I'd be scared of a chicken uprising out there. Wabash, Indiana was the first city anywhere to be powered by electricity. And that was in 1880. Maine has the world's only Cryptozoology museum. This is the study of animals who don't exist, such as the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. So if you want to learn about fictitious or maybe animals, you can go to that museum. Yeah, this could be Ohio, but Montana holds the record for the greatest temperature range in a 24-hour period. It went from 44 degrees to minus 56. That's an interesting day. Ohio law, and this wasn't mine, requires a hunting permit to catch a mouse. you get that? You gotta have a hunting permit to catch a mouse. It's a good thing we just killed it. There's some other things here. Betty White is older than sliced bread. Of course, she's not with us anymore. This one's funny. The lighter was invented before the match. Okay. France last used a guillotine to execute someone after Star Wars premiered. Yeah. If you have 23 people in a room, chances are there's a 50% chance 2 of you have the same birthday. The water in Lake Superior could cover all of North and South America in a foot of water. Yeah. The lighter the roast of coffee, the higher or the more caffeine it has. That's good to know. Let's see, if you were to dig a hole to the center of the earth and drop something down in there, it would take 42 minutes to reach the bottom. And this one I've always found fascinating. We went to the moon. We sent a man to the moon before we put wheels on luggage. It's just something wrong with it. Of course, we all know the difference between in-laws and outlaws. Outlaws are wanted. If 4 out of 5 people suffer from diarrhea, does that mean someone enjoys it? What did the fish say when he swam into the wall?
Damn.
Thank you. What is man's idea of a balanced diet? A diet beer in each hand, yeah, that's right. How do you know if a man's planning for the future? He bought 2 cases instead of 1. That's a little funny. I take my wife everywhere, but she keeps finding her way home. We all know that marriage is the #1 cause of divorce. I did marry Mrs. Wright. I didn't know her first name was always. I'm going to get in trouble for this. I haven't spoken to my wife in 18 months. I don't like to interrupt. Okay. Notice I saved those jokes for today when she's not here. Anyway, we do have some fines if you have never owned a box of crayons. That'll be $1. I don't see if I get $1 out of somebody here. If you've ever dated or met a Playboy model, that'll be $1. Nobody. All right. If you take regular naps, that'll be $1. Oh, come on. I got to get $1 out of somebody here. Dang. If you're winning in your NCAA bracket, that'll be $1. If you've been to England, I haven't. If you do not own any Aretha Franklin or Elton John music, that'll be $1. And Rick, this is for you and me. If you're currently or a past Ohio legislator or lawmaker, that'll be $1. Where is he? Get your $1 out.
I got that. IOU.
You guys heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all I have for now. You may collect the happy bucks if there's any left. You should be happy you dated a Playboy model, but I didn't get anybody for that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Speaking of Ohio lawmakers, did you know in the state of Ohio, it is illegal to fish for whales on Sundays? But Monday through Saturday, you are safe. Happy bucks. Who's happy? No one's happy? Eric.
I have a happy buck because all my brackets are busted. I don't have to watch basketball anymore.
There you go. Mike?
Several of us went to Fairborn Rotary on Wednesday, and they must have had 40 happy bucks, so this is a disgusting.
I have some happy bucks. I just don't have any cash on me. But I got to hang out with my sister in Florida all weekend, so that was really, really nice. Yeah, so she lives in Tampa, so I don't get to see her that much. Shannon?
I just want to give a happy thought that I got to spend my birthday at Ryla. That was a lot of fun. Had a big campfire and a bunch of kids that got excited by the time it was time to leave and didn't want to go. So they always ask, can we come back next year? And that's only a one-year program.
Yeah, that's great.
Was happy that Jay was able to make it out. So had a couple of Beavercreek Rotarians out there. Really had a good time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Real quickly, since it's popped up here, huge happy bucks to Brandon. He wasn't able to make the meeting today because he had his little Rotarian. So huge congrats, Brandon. Brian?
I was scheduled to swim in a swim meet this weekend, tomorrow, but yesterday they found bacteria in the pool. And so they called us to counsel it. So I'm glad they counseled it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Backwards, happy luck.
Yeah. Where was this then?
Yeah, Indianapolis.
Indianapolis? Yeah, that explains it all.
I have to give another happy buck for Brandon as well. I was out birding yesterday and saw a bluebird. But as I was walking in today, I was going, I wonder if Brandon's baby's hatched yet.
Yep, it's here. Anyone else? I usually go to Shannon, but he already went, so. Perfect, let's do the drawing here. The last four is 0003. Oh, there we go again, man.
Not me. God, I sell them and I don't get it.
So just a reminder, half the proceeds go to our annual Christmas basket drive we do every December. Hot Bros, all right. We do have a couple announcements. Next week after Rotary, we'll be having a board meeting. So as always, you guys are welcome to come. You have a paper on your desk. We are looking for nominations for our 2022 Outstanding Community Service Award. So I believe last year was our emergency cruise. Is that correct, Beavercreek? Yeah. So yeah, if you have a nomination, email Mr. Rudd over there and he'll collect those. Another announcement, I'd like to officially thank JD. I did see him. Where's he at? JD, yes, thank you. He joined our board as a club director administrator when unfortunately Rick had passed away. Truly appreciate you filling in that void. Has done a great job. His new job, I thought he was retired, but I guess he isn't. His new position is got him full. So I'm glad to see you today because you've mostly been on Zoom, which we appreciate you coming.
20 minutes.
He's going to be leaving early, everybody. No, but seriously, thank you so much. Really appreciate all the time you put into Rotary here on the board. And then as well as Don. Don actually is joining us in July, but I convinced him to join earlier. So I'm going to put you to work, sir. Get ready for that. But yeah, thank you both very much. Yeah. Actually, we have a couple more things. Denny, you have a couple announcements on our four-way?
Last month, the 14th, we had our Rotary four-way speech contest at the high school. And had a great team put together with Shannon and with Beth and Fran and with Pretat Shabazz. And Daniel Burke, the speech and debate coach, put together a fine competition. It was tough this year. But the winner, a junior named Jay Troutwine, spoke about this four-way test to talk about what it's like to be the eldest sibling. And so this Sunday, she's competing at Rice State University for the district championship. So we'll see how that goes. We sure will.
Thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully the speaker can come to one of our meetings. I always enjoy when they come and speak and take our four-way test and put it to everyday life. So All right. Beth,
Yeah, I don't need to.
you don't need it.
On April 30th, our district is having a Rotary Day of Service. We are partnering with Rebuilding Dayton Together and going into a couple of neighborhoods in the city of Dayton, doing some rehab. Our core group is going to be working on a children's garden and then also doing some interior work at a boys and girls club. So if you would be willing to volunteer, we could certainly use the help. We encourage you to bring your family members as well. It's from 8 to noon. And I want to thank our club for sponsoring the lunch for that.
Absolutely. I am definitely signed up. That'll be a lot of fun. Thank you. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Alex Zahara up. That is you, sir. In the mail today, well, not today, it was last week, I got your Paul Harris Fellow pin. So Paul Harris Fellow Award is recognizing anyone that's given $1,000 in their name to the Rotary Foundation. So very much appreciate it. So I look forward to getting mine. Any other announcements? Good, because I have one more. There's a clipboard that's going to go around. It says t-shirt size, large, medium, small. I just need you to mark an X. You don't have to write your name. We're looking at ordering t-shirts for the club. So again, just mark an X. I'm just trying to get a good idea of what size t-shirts we need. So that will go around. Last but not least, Mike, would you like to come up and introduce our speaker?
Thank you, sir. I'm proud to introduce my longtime friend, Chris Mcclure. Chris and I met many years ago when he was a youth pastor at Beavercreek Christian Church. Remember BCC. Chris is an author and he has his book with him, The Magnetic Leader. He's a life coach and he recently joined the Beavercreek Chamber of Commerce, BCC, as our Director of Operations. And Chris is going to talk about leadership today. So Chris, come on up. Thank you.
Glad to be here today, everybody. Definitely grateful, and while we're getting this set up, on behalf of the Beavercreek Chamber of Commerce, we want to also make sure that you're aware, we've been promoting it, but I want to keep spreading the word that on April 8th, we're going to be doing a Bourbon and Blues event in partnership with them all at Fairfield Commons. And it's going to be from 6 to 9 on a Friday night. We have Indian Creek Distillery going to be doing a bourbon tasting. And then we're going to have several food vendors. We're going to have vendor tables that with different products and things, live blues music through the evening, and it's gonna be an exciting night, just a community event, so it's open to anybody. You don't have to be a member of the chamber, but we would love for anybody to come out that's interested in that. And you can just go to the chamber website, beavercreekchamber.org, to learn more. And to it's all the tickets are just online. We're not selling at the door, it's just all online. But we would love to have anybody join us for that evening. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that. Does anybody think we have a leadership issue in our world today? Any level might be an issue, right? You know, I didn't know when I was going to be speaking. Actually, I was scheduled to do this in June. Wendy and I switched. She's going to come in June in my spot back then or later to talk about the chamber a little bit. But I couldn't have predicted, obviously, that Russia would have been invading the Ukraine and the war would be going on over there. But I think it's very true that we have all sorts of leadership crises locally, nationally, globally, consistently happening in our world. Would you agree? And so I think that it's really important for us to really find ways for us to become better leaders wherever we can influence and help where we can. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. And I did write a book called The Magnetic Leader. I'll share a little bit about that at the end. But today is not so much about the different topics I cover in that, as much as more of a, what I would say, kind of a universal or overarching process that I think any of us need to be mindful of as we do lead. You know, there's a Gallup poll research study that's put on pretty much every year, and I think it's been 20 some years now. And what they're finding is that year over year, at least 2/3 or even more, up to 70% sometimes more, of employees are considered disengaged in the workplace. Now, a large portion of those are even considered actively disengaged. And what that means is disengaged people kind of go through the motions, right? You just kind of go to work, you do the job, you kind of are living for the weekend, you just want to get out of work, right? And we've probably all been there at some point. But the actively disengaged people are people who actually sabotage the organization's success. And it can look in a variety of ways. It could be stealing office supplies and hurting, just your costs, right? It could be being rude to customers or clients or prospects. It could be that they're messing with the culture of the organization and create an unhealthy environment among their team or their department. They can look in a lot of different ways, but the key is that these statistics haven't changed in at least 20 years when Gallup does these polls all the time. There's a problem, right? There's a problem in the workplace. But there's also a reality that I continue to see, and many of you may see it, is that workplace culture continues to be one of the hottest topics when it comes to leadership and HR and workplace environments. And that's because a lot of people are really struggling in the workplace. We know with COVID that there's all sorts of issues that have come up, and now you see people who are looking to, be more remote jobs because they don't want to go back to an unhealthy culture, maybe in their office environment. Or maybe they've tasted, what remote work is going to be like and they don't want to go back. And so now there's an issue when they do come back that they're not as happy anymore and healthy, in their team engagement there. So as leaders, we have a lot of challenges, right? It's not just about what's going on globally. It's not just about what's going on federally. It's not just about what's going on at the state level even. There's plenty to be addressing at those levels, but even right where you are, right here in our community, we have leadership challenges that we will face and continue to face in different ways. And you may be facing it with a small team, you may be facing it in your family, in this community, wherever it may be. But the bottom line is we need to continue to grow and become better leaders wherever we are so that we can truly help the situation, that we can be part of the solution. And that's what I'm encouraged by, is I believe there is a solution. And I believe that we can see a better situation to deal with these different leadership challenges and issues in our situations. And so today, what I want to talk about are these three strategic steps. But before we get there, I believe that there are slide will work.
Is it present?
Yeah. There it is. Yeah, there we go. Just hit the space bar.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's two important facts I think we need to really think about. And the first is this, is that becoming a leader people love to follow is possible for anyone. Now, I describe this type of leader as a magnetic leader. And the reason I do that is because magnetic leaders attract the kind of people they want to their teams. But you know what the other side of a magnet does? It repels, right? So you can attract and you can repel. And repelling is just as important sometimes as it is to attracting the kind of people to your organization. Do you agree? That you need to make sure that there's a way for you to kind of filter and make sure that you are not bringing unhealthy people to your team. And so a magnetic leader does both. They attract the kind of people they desire, the kind of people they need, and they repel the kind of people that aren't a good fit. That doesn't mean they're a bad person necessarily. It may just mean that they're not a good fit for that culture. But the problem, I think, for a lot of people is they don't believe that they can become this kind of leader, or maybe that they're not even a leader in the first place. Because what happens is we think a lot of times that leadership is simply about a title or position, or where do I actually physically sit in the building? Do I have the corner office? Do I have the management role? And so a lot of people just don't believe it. But the reality is that everybody can become a leader at some level. Now, my mentor that I've read and learned from for years, John Maxwell, talks about leadership being influence. And so if we influence anybody, then that's leadership. And it could be simply one person. It could be your family. It could be your workplace. But the bottom line is we can all influence somebody. And so we need to understand that anybody can become the kind of person that people love to follow. Now, Henry Ford once said that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's where this kind of falls into play is, do you believe that you can become the kind of person, the kind of leader that people would love to follow? It has to start there, because if you don't believe you can, then you've already lost the battle before you ever begin to develop and grow. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to have in mind today. Next, we need to think that or understand that becoming a magnetic leader begins with who you are. And what I mean by this is your identity, your personality, your character, your integrity, your experiences, everything that you've done in life up to this point affects your leadership. It affects the context of everything that you know and do. And see, and the issue is that most people think about leadership more in the lines of what we do. But the reality is we're first human beings. So who we are, our being, affects what we ultimately do. And so to become the kind of leader that attracts the right kind of people to our teams, that attracts the right kind of people to our organizations that we want, we need to make sure we're working on who we are first and foremost, not just the skills, which are important, but not just the skills that we need to do tactical things. So if we can accept these two things, then I believe we can start to really make progress that in our own leadership development, our own leadership credibility, our trajectory in our lives. And so I wanted to just share that. So one quick story, Mike mentioned years ago, I was a youth pastor, and this was a long time ago. This girl came to me that was in our youth group, and she was so sick and tired of all the drama that she was around. What she didn't realize was she was the common denominator in all the drama. And I tried to explain that to her, but she was a teenager. She didn't quite get it, didn't understand it right. But as I thought about that more and more in light of all this, how many adults don't understand that they're the common denominator? Maybe I'm the common denominator in my problems, right? In the issues I deal with. Because there's a phrase that, wherever you go, there you are. So we take ourselves everywhere we go. So if that's good, then we can add value and that can be a good thing. But if it's negative, if we bring up a lot of baggage or a lot of drama to a situation, it's going to go to one relationship to the next, it's going to be just wherever we go because it ends up, we're carrying it with us. And that's what she was dealing with and didn't recognize it as a teenager. But as I thought about that, like I said, I think a lot of adults miss this too. And so I think we need to understand this is why our being, who we are, matters so much when we think about our leadership and how we grow and how we do lead in our organizations. So what I want to talk about is this three-step process. I call it the ACT process. It's an acronym, and you'll see it in a minute. But one of the things I believe is that leadership is not just a one-time thing. You don't just like read a book or listen to a speaker, take a course, or get a degree or whatever, and it's just a one and done thing. It truly is a process. And if we're going to be the kind of leaders that people love to follow, the kind of leaders that truly make a difference where we are, whether it be in our organizations, our homes, our community, wherever, then we need to act our way into becoming the kind of leaders that people truly want to be around, that truly trust. And so today, the first part of this is to assess. The A in this ACT acronym is assess. We need to assess our situation. We need to assess our skills. We need to assess anything and everything around us that comes into play and is a factor in our development. So maybe you are in a different situation, or maybe you're in a challenging situation. You need to assess that. Or maybe you're realizing, what got me here isn't going to get me there, wherever there is for you, the next step that you want to grow into. And so we need to be mindful of, that whole idea of assessing our skills, assessing our situation, and seeing where we need to grow. And a couple different ways just, to think about, perhaps you've heard, the SWOT or SWOT analysis that you can do to assess is looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And I've heard that, used in a lot of organizational terms, but I think it's also true in our personal development, our personal growth terms as well. Assessing what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what are my opportunities, what are my threats to my leadership and my influence and my credibility. We can assess ourselves that way. The other side of that, or another way to assess, is simply looking at the skills that I already have versus what I need to go to the next level, to address the next challenges. So a couple of years ago, I was assessing myself and my business with my coaching and my writing and everything. And there was a topic that I just avoided. There was a topic I hated. I told people it was like the bane of my existence, and it was marketing. I hated it because I just wanted to coach and train and write books and help people. I didn't want to do the marketing, right? I wanted someone else to promote me and promote all the things I'm doing. And I just banged up against this wall over and over and over again. And finally, one day it really hit me. You know what? This is not just something I hate, but it's also my next learning opportunity. It's where I need to grow in next. And instead of, rejecting that thought, I really dug into it. I started reading books. I started taking courses. I hired some coaches to help me. I started really learning and grow because when I assessed, I realized that was a gap in my business. That was a gap that I had to learn and grow with. And we all face something like that at different points in our lives. There's a new challenge we're facing that becomes the gap that we need to address. But the question becomes, are we willing to lean into that rather than kind of run from it or deflect it or kind of ignore it? So first you assess, where do you need to grow? Based on a situation, based on a new opportunity, whatever it may be, where do you need to grow? Assess where you are and what's going to take you to get to the next level. But then next we need to choose. We need to choose what we're going to do. Now, the reason this is so important is because when you assess what's going to happen for most of us is we're going to realize there are a lot of gaps or a lot of weaknesses I may have that I need to grow in. Maybe there's 3, 4, 5 things that if I really am honest with myself, I really need to grow in to become better, to become a better leader, to become better for my team, to become, wiser and smarter in different situations. There's going to be many things, but we can't take action on all those things at once and really be successful. Maybe you've heard the ancient proverb that when you chase 2 rabbits, you catch neither one. And that's what happens. When we start trying to do too much at once, we end up diluting our energy, our focus, our power, to make changes. I've heard, it's kind of a famous or common, illustration, but think about a magnifying glass, and the sun is obviously, it's hot. We get warm. We hope it comes out sometime again soon. But you can be on the beach and you'll get sunburned, right, Stephen? Yeah. But just in that situation, it'll take a while, right? Like you have to be out there for quite a while to get sunburned, typically. But if you took a magnifying glass and put it on your arm, that sun's going to burn you quickly, right? Like you're going to feel that pain much quicker than just sitting out on the beach for the day. Well, that's what happens with our focus. So we have to choose what is it that we need to do and grow in based on that assessment. And then what am I going to tackle first or next? And many times this is a big challenge for people because we realize, I have so many things I need to grow in. There's so many things I need to work on. And so we end up basically chasing too many things. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody because I'm an action taker and I have to really slow myself down to be strategic about the things that I'm doing because I can run off in this direction and try to learn that and run off in this direction and try to learn something else instead of prioritizing them. But the reality is that the most impact we make in our life and our leadership is when we truly choose to focus on one thing at a time, even if it's for an hour today or an hour later today or tomorrow, whatever. I want to focus for this block of time on this one thing. Then I can get better, I can learn, I can grow, I can become, smarter in this area. But we have to make that choice. Another story is a good friend of mine. She was a very successful nonprofit fundraising executive for some very large foundations here in the U.S. for many, many years. And she raised millions of dollars in those foundations. She was somebody that was very successful. People, loved her because of what she could do for their teams. But she also had a heart for helping like smaller nonprofits raise money. And she didn't know what to do about that because she knew that she only had so much time in the day. She had these full-time jobs at the fundraising development director at these organizations. And so she had to make a choice. And so she made a choice that she needed to write a book about her framework or her process of what she went through that had been so successful that it had raised all this money over the years. So she made that choice to write a book. And she'll tell you that that was probably one of the most painful things she's ever done. It was just very time consuming and tedious for her. And just was very challenging. But she'll also tell you that because she made that choice and stuck to it and focused on that project until it was done, it also changed her life. And it changed everything that she could do in business. And so from that book, she decided she was able to then leave her full-time job at the foundation she was working with to go into her sort of full-time consultancy to help many organizations. And then beyond that, now she offers a coaching program to nonprofit leaders all over the world where she's coaching them and helping them over Zoom from the comfort of her own home. You see, she had to make a choice in order to increase her influence, her leadership, her impact. And now she's helping hundreds of nonprofit leaders all over the world be successful, but it started with a choice. So she assessed, I need to do something different if I'm going to help more people. And that came out to be, I need to write a book. Then she had to choose to sit down and do the hard work of putting that book into play, making it happen so that she could then ultimately serve her clients the way she is now. So she assessed, she chose, and then our third part of this ACT process is to test. Do any of you get frustrated when you don't get things right the first time? like me. Many times I think as leaders, we want to get it right the first time, right? We don't want to go through trial and error because it slows us down or we get frustrated. We don't like it when we don't nail it the first time. But one of the things I've learned and I've had to kind of embrace myself about leadership development and any skill development, honestly, is that we need to look at things more like scientists look at experiments. A scientist doesn't have 10 failures and feel like a failure. They just realize this isn't working, or they discover new things that are going to affect them. It may be an overused analogy, but Thomas Edison, right? Thomas Edison, they say, I've heard different numbers, but let's say thousands of times he failed before he made the incandescent light bulb. But when a reporter once asked him about all these failures and how it discouraged him, he said these failures are just simply steps in the process to the invention, to figure it out. And I think as leaders, we have to understand that we're not going to get it right all the time. We're not going to get it right many times. We need to test what we learn, how we grow, how we're maturing as leaders, so that we can then become better. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned have come either by watching those that I followed make mistakes, or making those mistakes on my own and having to learn from them. I prefer to learn from other people's mistakes, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way, right, on our own. But if we can shift our thinking to this idea that I'm going to test what I'm learning in and day out situations, I'm going to assess the situation I'm in. I'm going to assess my skill level. I'm going to make choices to grow and learn and improve. And then I'm going to test those things in real situations. That's how we end up growing. That's how we end up making a bigger difference. And so what I just want to encourage you with all this today is simply that we can't just learn, we can't read a book, we can't just take a course, we can't just listen to somebody speak. We have to act our way into becoming the kind of people, the kind of leaders that people love to follow. Because it is so important. We need quality leaders. I bet most people would say, I want high quality, I want highly engaged people on my team. I want to be around high level people because we can do so much more and so much better when we have that kind of a team. But I believe that too often we don't get that because we don't do the things we need to do to become the kind of leaders in the first place that attract those kind of people. See, this book that I wrote was really kind of inspired. John Maxwell, in his one book, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, he talks about the law of magnetism. And that law, he says, is who you are is who you attract. So this is the challenge for us as leaders. Look at who you're attracting. And if you don't like that, the first place we have to look then is the mirror. Are we being the kind of people, are we being the kind of leaders that are truly capable of or currently capable at least to attract the kind of people we want? Because if we're a level 5 out of 10 kind of a leader, but yet we want levels 8s, 9s, and 10s to join our team, they're not coming. Because what happens is people tend to follow those who are farther ahead of them. So if you want those 7, 8s, and 9s, you better at least be a 7, 8, or 9. You better, you've got to keep growing. We have to keep becoming ahead of where we ultimately are going to attract. And that's a challenging thought. That's challenging for us because that means we have to take ownership of where we are today. We have to truly give ourselves an honest assessment. We have to truly say, look, I'm not where I need to be in order to accomplish the goals I want to accomplish or bring those type of people into my organization or around me. Because, our inner circle, the people that are around us make or break our success. They make or break an organization. There's the law of the lid that Maxwell talks about, that there's a leadership lid on us if we aren't careful. And we are the ones who can lift that lid by becoming the kind of leaders that people want to follow and want to be around. So one quick final story is one of my recent clients. She is a great example of acting her way into becoming the kind of leader people love to follow, this magnetic leader. She was with a global organization, a lot of traveling. She was, very, very much away from home. And she realized it was time to stop doing all that. She wanted to be more available to her family. And so she took a new job in a mid-sized company and she was in a mid-level role. And she was doing a great job, and she was getting recognition from her senior leaders because of the quality of work that she produced and who she was. She was a value adder to her team. She was great about helping other people grow. And so she ended up, being recognized for that. she decided she was going to go and get advanced degrees so that she could actually have more options to move up into the organization. And so she did that. And so now she had more options when openings came up in the organization. And so she was promoted into multiple roles. And every role she took on in her journey, they kept noticing how much she was building her team and helping people develop and how it helped them grow. And her people that were following her kept excelling and advancing because of what she was doing with them as a leader for them. So a few years into her journey, it was time for the president CEO to retire. And when that announcement was made, it was open, the position was open, but she became one of the top candidates for the job because of what had been seen up until that point. And ultimately, the board did hire her to be the next president and CEO. And today she is leading that organization with vision, with energy, with enthusiasm, excitement. She's building a healthy culture. That's one of her highest priorities because she decided that she was going to take action. She's going to act her way into becoming the kind of leader that people did love to follow, that people wanted to be a part of. And it was a culture issue as much as anything. And so now she is being very successful. She's building a high level team of people that truly are excited about the future and where they're going. So that's why I go back to anyone can become the kind of leader people love to follow if we are willing to put the time in to act into the situation. So just want to recap here real quick. The 3 strategic steps that we have are to assess our current leadership skills and abilities, choose to grow in the urgent and important areas, and then test our new skills in various situations. See, let me go back to that choose for a second as well. What is most urgent to you right now? Is there a crisis or a challenge you're facing? Let that be your area to grow in. And if that's not the case, then what's most important for your next steps in your leadership growth and journey? Then let that be your next steps to focus on and grow in. So assess, choose, test. That's how we act our way into becoming leaders people love to follow. That's how we become the people that are worth following, that can truly raise the level of our organizations, our teams, that can make a difference in our communities, that can make a difference in our homes. And ultimately, I believe, can make a difference in the world because, we may not be able to solve the world's global crises in and of ourselves or on our own, but if there's enough of us that keep choosing to become better every day, then we can impact our part of the world, and then that can continue to have ripple effects and multiply out into the world. And I think that's so very important. So the question is, are you ready and willing to act your way into becoming a magnetic leader? Are you willing to become this kind of person that takes action, that assesses, that chooses to test consistently so you can overcome your challenges, overcome your, the weak areas in your life so that you can truly add value to those you lead. Now, real quick, I do have books here today. I brought a few just in case anybody would like to read them. Basically, just a quick commercial. I write in here about 18 essential actions that I believe leaders do that cause people to want to follow them. And so in each of those 18 essential actions, there's a 3-step process of becoming better at each of those. And so you can see that in there. But even if you don't want the book, even if you don't want to buy the book or a book reader, I do want to give you guys an opportunity. I have a QR code here if you're interested, but I have this poster, it's just a PDF poster of these 18 essential actions. And I'll just leave this up here. But basically it describes the different things that we do in order to attract the kind of people we want, in order to become the kind of leaders that I believe are worth following. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. I hope it's maybe challenged your thinking a little bit because we need to take ownership as leaders of who we need to become in order to have the kind of people we want in our organizations and on our teams. So.
Yep. So Q&A, real quick, because I've been in sales forever. I've done SWAT, tons of times. I think the bigger challenge with doing SWAT is can you give, what's your idea on having someone actually, I guess, be a checker for you to make sure that you're following through it? Because, you can fill out the SWOT and it's very information to know, your strengths and weaknesses. But from there, actually acting on that.
You mean accountability?
Yeah, moving forward.
Yeah. So one of my 18 essential actions is to embrace accountability. And the reason for that is that because that becomes the issue, right? Like there are many things we learn or we commit to, but who's going to follow up? Who's going to make that happen? And I think that just has to be a priority. But here's one of the challenges I feel like with accountability. If I hold you accountable, Stephen, you might hold me accountable. And so you know what happens? People don't do it. So I think we have, that's why that action is to embrace accountability. That first, I am as a leader going to be willing to be held accountable. And then, and say, you know, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable to those things, you know, that you've said you're going to do as part of this, but I need you to hold me accountable too, but I'm doing my part. And if it's a mutual accountability, I think it's much more embraced. I've had leaders, and I'll tell leaders, like, go to your team and ask them what they say your weaknesses are. And the ones that are brave enough to do it, come back and said, my team members were scared to death to answer. Because the culture right then, they were fearing, like, if I told you what I really think, you know, you might fire me or demote me, or, you know, I might be penalized. And so you really have to build a culture of trust that, yes, I want your feedback, but I think that's part of that accountability is, hey, tell me if I'm messing up, you know, because I can't get better if you don't tell me. And so I think that's a big part of holding each other accountable. Go first as leaders. Yeah, Brian.
We used to do these 363 assessments.
Yep.
So the manager would know whose comments they were coming back.
Yeah.
Back and forth. So have you tried those before?
Yeah, 365 assessments are good. I think, I do believe they're good because of the anonymity for sure. I think the challenge with them is you can't follow up if you know, with more, if you gave your feedback and I didn't know who, you know, that it was you that gave it. And I would like to really sit down, not from I'm mad at you about it, but I need more input. I think that's where the gap is in those, but I do think it's a great first step so that you can help each other. But I also think that it depends on the size of the team. If it's a small team, there's a lot of paranoia even within that, because there's 5 people. It's like, well, which one of you 4 said that about me, right? Like, that's the problem. So I think there's pros and cons to it. I think it's a good idea. It's a great step in the right direction. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
As you look at some of the organizations, tech companies, whatever, what's a couple that you think are actually getting it right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I think every corporation, you know, right now that's kind of, you know, we hear about are doing some things. Well, obviously they're growing, right? Like you think of Google, you think of Apple, Microsoft, you know, the big ones. You know, I think that they're building the culture side of it's really good. I think that there's still a side of them that, you know, nobody's perfect, first of all, right? We just have to understand that. But I think a lot of it comes down to who's developing their people. And I know one of the things I remember hearing years ago, Google giving their people like, you know, 10% of their work week or 20% of their work week, I forget exactly the percentage, to work on additional projects, which ultimately led to new products that they were releasing. So let's say Friday was their day to do your own thing and experiment. I thought that was a great idea because people were working hard Monday through Thursday for the company, but on Friday they were trying to test some new things, which ultimately did help the company too, but it also spun off a lot of other companies. So I think that idea, you know, their culture, it matters. I think just even smaller, you know, like I know some IT companies that are really, you know, good at they want to develop their people, you know, they just really want to do a good job and they want to develop their people so they can be successful. And so, yeah, I think there's a variety. Once again, pros and cons. Apple, you know, Steve Jobs, some people have strong opinions, good and bad about him. You know, I mean, he's obviously deceased, but he built a culture of success for that company. But maybe behind closed doors, it might have been a little brutal at times when you hear some of the stories. So, you know, once again, nobody's perfect.
I've just got a curiosity. Obviously, sales, I'm very outgoing. Used to be, you know, one-on-one with people. And with COVID and the shift of people working from home, I could see a lot of challenges for leaders who are trying to better themselves, but now everything's over emails for the most part. You know, what kind of challenges are you seeing there? And I mean, I feel like that could be a whole other SWAT. It
really is, because you've got certainly pros and cons there. So I had a company last summer contact me to do a 1-hour webinar just on mindset because their people were struggling so much through being home alone and remote. And they said, our people are just really struggling with isolation. So that's one of the challenges, right? It's a lot of people say, well, I would like to be remote. I want to be at home and have the flexibility and all that, not to commute and all that, which, yeah, so that's the good side. The dark side of that, or the hard side of that is, yeah, but you're by yourself. And I think for managers and leaders to really stay connected to their people is really important, whether it's a daily check-in, it could be literally instead of being able to have a quick stand-up meeting or drop by your office in, physical space, you basically set those up to check in with people, ask them truly how they're doing. I think the other side of it too is really caring for the people, because, so one of my essential actions, number 9 here, is one that is kind of a challenging one for leadership, but it's about loving people. And I talk about in my book about this, it's just about caring for them as a person, not just what they do. And I think that's a big part of it is, do you care about me or do you just care about my productivity for the company? And both have to happen to be healthy. You got to get things done for sure. But I think caring for people and, asking about their family, asking them how they're doing is, because, mental health has become much more of a topic that people are willing to talk about or making it as a higher priority now, which is good. But what are we going to do about that? Are you doing okay? Checking in with people because we've just gone through a lot, and I don't think it's, even though COVID is, this season is, hopefully winding down. We don't know what is to come, obviously, but we're in a new reality and with so many people working remotely, even just how we communicate anything, what is the tone of our communication? How are we just being direct and demanding, or are we actually checking in or communicating in a way that actually is, going to actually encourage people? So. Anything else?
Perfect. Yeah, thank you again for coming. I actually took your course for Green Leads. So yeah, so if anyone's interested for their company, he does a great group project and then brings it back. So really appreciate it. Yeah, what else? We got a book here for you. So for our speakers, we always donate a book to the Greene County Library.
That's cool.
And we'll have you sign it. It's called Stories for Boys Who Dare to Be Different. So it's about leadership.
Nice.
So thank you, Beth, for getting that. Anything else for the good of the club? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So just real quick, for those that don't know, Think Rotary, we do a new member takeover meeting once a year. It's going to be on April 18th, so it's a Monday. Our group of new members take over, run the meeting, and we're using it as a fundraiser to raise money for a new K-9 officer for the Dayton Police Department. So if you're at all interested, like I said, it's a fun day, it's a fundraiser, so people come and hopefully support our cause. So if you have any interest, April 18th at Sinclair Appliance Center, we can do some information. So thank you.
It's great. Thank you. All right, let's stand for the pledge. Would you like to lead us, Chris?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's so long. See you later, James.